Welcome to the 26th edition of Ask Dr. Smith Live. We have another fantastic program, and with my so-called co-host there, Dr. Stanley Nye, who's a world-renowned Qigong master, and he professes that he can walk on water. So I'm going to, next time I get up to Canada, I'm going to test him on that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, couple little points I want to bring up before we get rocking and rolling. There's a fantastic opportunity for people who are interested in the health industry and not sure what direction they want to go. The World Organization of Natural Medicine is offering an incredible course, 10 different lectures. It's going to run from May 11th to was it the 26th of October, Stanley? Is that right?
It's 19th of October.
19th of October. And you'll wind up with a certificate issued by the World Organization of Natural Medicine to enable you to literally practice being a health coach. And you can be anywhere in the world and practice your field. Before people can, have to make a commitment, there's this opportunity on May 3rd and 4th, and we'll have the information up for you. It's called the Conference Cube, and it's eventbrite.com. So you have the active link there. So you can see a half-hour presentation of the first 5 lectures on May 3rd. And May 4th, we'll have the second group of lectures. So you can get an overview of what's going to be presented in the extended course. And if you like what you see, great. If there's a situation economically where, let's say, you can't afford to go through the whole, program, you could do part of the program this year and part next year and still get your certificate. So it's a wonderful opportunity to develop a profession, which can also get extended into other higher levels of training. So, and the World Organization of Natural Medicine has great credentials. We have a UN recognition, and we have international groups all over the place. And you don't have to worry about state boards and all that nonsense because you'll be an independent entity. So anyway, thanks for listening. And tonight we're going to talk about stroke and heart attacks. And according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, the #1 cause of deaths in the United States is cardiovascular disease. In fact, this is more men and women die from cardiovascular disease than the next 4 leading causes of death, all combined. That's a pretty heavy-duty statement. So some of the startling facts: more than 800,000 people die in the U.S. each year of cardiovascular disease, making it not cancer, but the #1 killer. In up to 40% of the heart attack patients, traditional risk factors like elevated cholesterol, hypertension, and diabetes are absent. 1 in 4 Americans who suffer a heart attack will die from their first incident, which is frequently their first and only indication of ill health. The unfortunate situation is that most people think that they're healthy. Kind of reminds me of the guy who jumped off the Empire State Building, and he was 12 stories down. He said, so far, so good. Just because you don't have a symptom doesn't mean that you're well. So, it's all relative. But, with alternative healthcare, there's a lot of testing, and Dr. Stanley Nye is going to be mentioning with reading someone's pulse, you can pretty much see the writing on the wall if you're a candidate for a stroke or heart attack. So he'll talk about that in the latter half of the presentation today. So standard cholesterol tests are not helpful in gauging an individual's risk of cardiovascular disease, since approximately 60% of the people who have a heart attack have normal cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a disease. It's a reaction that there's distress in the system. So you have to understand that concept. This whole cholesterol business. Oh, what's your HDLs and LDLs and total cholesterol? You know, this is all a scam because it's a reaction to distressors in the body. You know, and I got a warning that people who are on statin drugs are literally setting themselves up for a quick death, because by lowering the cholesterol, you're denying the adrenals and the other organs that require cholesterol to make their hormones to meet the emergency situation at risk. Because if you cut the supply chain, the final product is going to be diminished. It's just, it's crazy. You know, the American public and the Canadian public have been dumbed down to believe in blood tests as being the end all and be all, and it's the farthest thing from the truth. So blood cholesterol is lowered also naturally in your body by thyroxine and adrenaline, as does pituitary thyrotropin, even if the thyroid gland is missing. So the body has backup systems to handle what's going on. So the real reason for high blood cholesterol dietarily is it's a deficiency of your natural cholesterol metabolizers in the unrefined organic cold-pressed vegetable oils: safflower, sunflower, walnut, pumpkin seed, coconut oil, almond oil, and cashew, just to name a few. See, the problem is your snack foods that you're eating have all these adulterated oils, and that's what's screwing up your blood vessels and setting you up for a stroke. There's no mystery to this, and that's why heart attacks and strokes are so damn high in this country. It's really pathetic. So the bottom line is you have a chronic silent inflammation is one of the key root causes of cardiovascular disease. Well, just eating Dunkin' Donuts every morning. I mean, I used to do a TV show, and I would go into the studio, and they had a whole box of Dunkin' Donuts and the coffee. And I said to you guys, I said, hopefully you have good insurance policies, because the way you're eating, you're not going to last long. I mean, it was just it breaks your heart that these people are talking about health and they don't have the foggiest clue what health's all about. When you dump a lot of sugar, refined sugar, into your body, you elevate the insulin. Guess what? Insulin raises systemic inflammation. So you're playing Russian roulette with every donut that you eat. And then the people can't understand why they had a heart attack. I can vouch for that personally, because my father had 3 heart attacks between the age of 41 and 50. And I saw what he ate in the morning, you know, a bagel with cream cheese or a donut and coffee, you know, pure refined sugar. I mean, he basically set himself up for the heart attack. But back in those days, you know, they really didn't understand that refined carbohydrates, which I just mentioned, you know, once in a while, if you want to cheat, fine, but just take some added B-complex nutrients and so forth to counteract the effect of the refined carbs. Heavy metals, the most frequently ones that I find in my practice are mercury, arsenic, cadmium, lead, aluminum, and nickel. And, you know, it's pretty obvious. People don't realize these small private planes run on leaded gas. So if you live near a small airport where they have these private planes flying over, you're getting leaded gasoline dumped on you, whether you like it or not. Arsenic is in chicken feed. So the chicken eats the laced feed, and you're eating the chicken, you get the arsenic. Underarm deodorant, it's loaded with aluminum. If you're cooking in aluminum pots, you're getting the aluminum. And they use aluminum in the public water supply treatment, and they don't even have to tell you. See, when you have suspended particles floating in the water, they throw alum into the water. It's called aluminum sulfate, and that precipitates out the suspended particles so they can give you crystal clear water at your spigot. So meanwhile, that's another source for the aluminum. Nickel, be surprised, a lot of silver jewelry has nickel in it as a hardening agent, and that absorbs right through your skin. It's also in some of the foods. So Mercury from leaky fillings from fish. Cadmium is from exhaust. So there's plenty of sources around to get these heavy metals. And the other biggie is this glyphosate. Glyphosate is a nasty herbicide that Monsanto puts out and really sets you up for a whole plethora of illnesses. It causes leaky gut, leaky brain, allergies, muscle problems, you name it. Toxins from root canal teeth. These are items that your traditional dentist or your family physician invariably have no clue about, these components that set you up for stroke and heart attack. There's over 400 different bacteria in the mouth, species. And root canals also put out mercaptans, hydrogen sulfide, and other toxins. And every time you have a dead organ in your body, it acts as a broadcast system to attract viruses and other bacteria to clean up the debris. EMFs, unfortunately, we can't escape them. Your Wi-Fi, your cell phones, the TATRA emergency system, and with the 5G that they're throwing up all over the place. In fact, if you hold a cell phone up to your ear and you have a 7-minute conversation, it's been documented scientifically that it'll activate the Epstein-Barr virus in your body. So these things are not innocuous. You're better off, you got to get a diode to help protect that, but we'll talk about that next week. Trapped childhood vaccines and adjuvants. Again, this is an area that traditional doctors have no clue about. They think that all these vaccines, they dissipate and they disappear in thin air. Well, it's the farthest thing from the truth. My clinical experience has been a tetanus vaccine trapped in the left lobe of the thyroid. Also diphtheria and pertussis in the thyroid. And these adjuvants, you have aluminum, which is a neurotoxin. Mercury in the form of thimerosal is a neurotoxin. You have polysorbate 80 is industrial strength chemical. You have antibiotics in there. Fetal tissue is also part of the witch's brew that they make up for these vaccines. And of course, they're not telling you, but it's in this sheet. Or Sherry Tenpenny has a fantastic book, just says, Just Say No to Vaccines. And she lists by manufacturer each vaccine and what's in it, what they admit to anyway. And the other problem is that these darn vaccines are all experimental. And legally, under the Nuremberg Code, they cannot force you to take any vaccine that is experimental. So whether it be COVID or any of the other vaccines, they really have no safety studies. So in essence, they're all experimental. And you could object just on that basis of violating the Nuremberg Code. So basically, there's a lot of interesting facts out there that kind of upset me from the perspective that there's a fantastic false narrative that keeps being pushed out there by the establishment. So, for example, they say causes for stroke. You're talking of the risk factors, high blood pressure. Well, but they're not telling you how to control the high blood pressure. Only with medication is their answer. Cigarette smoke. Well, secondhand cigarette smoke certainly is worse than actually smoking the cigarette. Diabetes, it definitely sets you up for clogging of the arteries from the chronic inflammation. And then it's high blood cholesterol levels. Well, again, cholesterol is not a disease, it's a reaction. Heavy drinking, well, it creates inflammation. Now here, a diet high in fat. Animal fat is not going to kill you, people. That's a totally false narrative. You need the fat-soluble vitamins in animal fat. But they've driven this false narrative for many, many years. In fact, they're pushing people to take margarine and all these other phony lubricants. It was the Germans that fabricated artificial or synthetic petroleum products like this to lubricate their submarines and run their tanks. And then somebody got the brilliant idea back in the 40s. Well, if you take yellow dye and you squirt it into this goop, you got margarine. And basically, that's how the concept started. And lack of exercise, which is pretty straightforward, and obesity. But the reason why there's so much obesity is all these high, index foods, the high carbohydrate foods. So that turns into fat very quickly. Anyway, so they keep pushing all this false narrative. And, the poor patient goes to the doctor with the understanding that he's going to give them cures, and he's pumping in chemistry, which is just manipulating a symptom and not getting to the root cause of the problem. Also, people don't realize there was a study done with aspirin many years ago. And, it came out that, aspirin can prevent blood clots and heart attacks. But the thing that they left off from the aspirin study was that there was an increase in the number of strokes on the people that were taking aspirin in the study. And they conveniently disregarded that important piece of information. The other interesting thing was they were using, I think it was bare aspirin, which has magnesium in it. And guess what? Magnesium dilates your coronary blood vessels. So they were doing a study and not understanding the physiology of the component of the drug that they were testing. They were actually getting false, results, because was it the aspirin that actually prevented the heart attack or lessened the incidence? Or was it the magnesium that was in the compound? So it's kind of screwy. And it's frustrating because the average person doesn't know the physiology. They don't know the details of the study. And unfortunately, most of the studies that are done today, you can't trust the results. They're all manipulated to sell drugs. So you really have to do a lot of your own research to get the truth when it comes to health. Let me see. Sleep, very important issue. Most people are so stressed out today with what's going on with the economy and so-called COVID. If you're getting under 7 hours of sleep a night, your cells are not charged up enough to kick out the viruses. So, when you have viruses and bacteria floating around in your blood, you have a greater chance of developing a blood clot and having a stroke or a heart attack. Interestingly, back in the 50s, Royal Lee discovered that the lack of calcium and magnesium in the diet was the cause for the vasospasms of your coronary blood vessels. So magnesium actually dilates your coronary blood vessels. And when you look around, when you go to a restaurant, how many people are eating collard greens and Swiss chard and bok choy? If it's a green vegetable, it's only because it comes with the dinner. Most people don't eat greens today. They think iceberg lettuce is greens. If you don't get the greens, you don't get the magnesium. It's that simple. The other big factor that is way, way understated, and I had a perfect incident today. I had a service guy come to check my oven out. And basically, he saw the vitamins on my countertop, and one thing led to another. And I said, "You have a water filtering system in your home?" He said, "No." I said, "Here, try my water." I gave him a half a glass of my triple filtered water, and his eyeballs start rolling around like a slot machine. He says, "I can't believe how delicious this tastes." I said, "The fact that you do not have a filter system, you are engaging your organs of your body to filter the sludge out of the city water that you're putting into your body." And and he stood up and he said, "Wow." He said, "That really makes sense." And this is what's going on, people. this is an untalked about issue. You'll be shocked at the amount of sludge that's pulled out in your filter system once you start filtering your water. And I'm so darn paranoid with my water. I have 3 water filtering systems: a whole house system, which I then take that water, put it through a 6-stage ADYA filter system, and then I take that water and put it through my Berkey. But let me tell you, it's the best tasting water you'll ever come across. And the fact is, that's what you need to hydrate your body, not this garbage-filled, pesticide-laden, drug-laden water that you're getting from the public water supply. Not good. Let's see. The other problem is you get the false impression that you're eating organic foods. And unfortunately, because glyphosate's in our rainwater, you're getting contaminated foods with herbicides. And was even scary. This service guy was telling me, I'm sorry, I had another patient in today. He was the one telling me from Lakewood, New Jersey. And a lot of his friends, they all have gardens that they're growing their food. And all of a sudden, planes had flown by over, and the next week, all their gardens died. So these chemtrails that they're spraying have aluminum, strontium, and barium, and also desiccants in there. So these people have an agenda, and they basically want to attack your food supply, your foliage, and it's just barbaric. But you can look this up. Ted Gunderson on YouTube. He was an ex-FBI agent. He was the head of the Southern California FBI division. And look him up, Ted Gunderson, chemtrails. And he'll show you hardcore evidence. This is not maybe if, and it's not condensation from a jet engine. These people are out to do us in by diminishing our food supply. So all I can tell you is that I gave you kind of like a little overview of some of the causes of stroke. I also think that people that are strict vegetarians are setting themselves up for hardcore problems because we don't have enough catalase to digest the fiber in these vegetables. So you're getting shortchanged on your nutrients. You need the fat-soluble vitamins and animal protein, which you're not getting from your vegetable sources. So, over a long period of time, it's going to take its toll. I had a friend a number of years ago. He called me up. He said, "Jerry, I have bilateral detached retinas. I feel like crap, no energy." And he says, "Can you help me?" So I said, "Well, come on over and I'll evaluate you." And he was a strict vegan for 27 years. And it took 27 years for his retinas to detach and his level of energy to plummet. And 3 days after I told him, "You got to start eating some roadkill and get some animal protein in you," his energy soared, and he called me up to thank me. So you really got to be careful. In the beginning, yes, it's a great way to detox your body, clean your bowel out. Very, very important. But over the long haul, it's going to do damage to your whole system. So anyway, Stanley, where are you? You still here? There you are.
Yeah. Okay, I'm here.
So I know you have some pretty incredible information to share with our audience, and I always learn from you when you give a presentation. So take the baton and run with it.
Well, the thing is, I was listening to you, and it's incredible information. Not too many people have your wisdom to give this kind of information, and I appreciate that. That's the reason why I'm talking on the show with you. Okay. Anyway, so for the folks now, I'm going to reiterate some of the information that Dr. Smith said. The reason why is because I want you to make a change. Okay. And I hope we get through to you tonight. And that's the reason why I'm going to repeat some of the information. All right. Number one silent killer is heart attack and stroke. Right? We all know that from the past. We know that it's always an emergency case if there's an attack. So if you have an attack, okay, at that point, you must perform CPR and dial 911 to get to the hospital immediately. The reason for that is because everything is on a time basis. Time is of essence, okay? We have our own CPR. I have my Qigong CPR that I use, which actually get you back within a second, okay? And maybe I might talk about it next week, okay? Maybe. So stay tuned. So this is the most devastating emergency call. You can ask any MDs who work in the ER. They'll tell you, right? It is the worst. It's worse than cancer. It's worse than anything else. All right, all the silent killers, and you have to give it priority. So everybody knows that. All right, silent killers are illnesses with no obvious symptom. So really, you don't know. And I'll show you how you can actually know. There is, we can find out these symptoms. Okay, so there's no obvious symptoms according to the West, according to the normal people. And this can progress to advanced stage before they're discovered. So when they're discovered, it's too late. All right, you have to really, really do something about it. Okay, and that's the reason why heart attacks and stroke is number one for men and women. Okay, now they realize that women are having more heart attacks as they get older. The reason why is because of the way the attacks come on. It's actually more silent in women. And maybe we might be covering that later on. Women actually don't know because most men might suffer from atrial fibrillation or atrial arrhythmias. Women, a lot of them suffer from ventricular fibrillation or ventricular arrhythmias. And that is more silent, okay? And that kills you faster without you knowing it. And a lot of people, even men, would actually just walk, tip over, and die. And, you know, this thing is so devastating, it's unbelievable. Anyway, I just want to mention that today's talk is about prevention, right? And being proactive, okay? And of course, next week, we'll talk about repairing the damage from stroke and heart attack. All right? So let's look at some statistics, which Dr. Smith mentioned. And I'm going to put it in a little different way. Almost every adult has at least one risk factor of heart disease and stroke. Every single person, basically. 9 in every 10 people have it. Okay, and probably even me and you have it. But I know I don't have it because I do check myself. Right, for the underlying cause. You see, as we go back to the splinter, right? The underlying cause, the cause that you don't see, you don't feel, and that's what makes it invisible to the average human being. Because, you know, I was just explaining that to someone in the clinic today, too. You know, how it's, you know, it's just silent. You don't see it, you don't feel it. And when it hits you, it's late. It's too late. Okay, and statistics show that stroke and heart attacks are, yeah, stroke and heart attacks are the worst because they actually kill so fast. You see what happened? It's because things like cancer, right, makes a lot of money, millions of dollars in a day. Okay, so heart attack and stroke get left behind. So the whole society is just busy thinking about and feeling sorry for people and have all this emotional stuff about cancer. But heart attack is worse than that. And I'd like you to realize that heart attack is worse. Okay, and that's why we decided to talk about it today. So why is it so important for prevention? And that's what we tonight is all about. Because death is immediate. Okay, we are bombarded with all kinds of information that actually deflect our focus. And we forget about the most deadly disease, the absolutely most deadly disease. Okay, what makes this devastating is actually the sudden onset. All right, 1 second, you're seemingly healthy, and the next second, either you have life-altering disease or you're dead. In the United States, okay, my friend in the United States there, okay, in Pennsylvania, okay, death by stroke occurs every 3 minutes. Imagine every 3 minutes someone dies of stroke. And in Canada, every 5 minutes. So we're not too far apart, right? Our lifestyles are similar. It's only because Canada has less population. That's why I think the rate is the same. The rate of death is the same, but Canada has less people. That's all it is. So let's not forget the importance. It's so important that we understand this. Okay? Of course, an attack happens more often than death. I was talking about death before. So a lot more people have just attack, and they have the devastating life afterwards. Okay? And we'll talk about those who actually stayed alive after the attack. They're fortunate. But for those people, how we can actually change their lives. Okay? Some people may have like heart infraction or myocardial infraction, which is dead or damaged heart muscle, or transient ischemic attack. What that is a temporary blockage in the brain. And this happens a lot of times. I know of people who came and I've seen them afterwards. They had a 3-4 heart attack, what they call silent myocardial infraction. Okay, and they didn't know until they were checked and found out, hey, you had one 10 years ago, one 5 years ago, one 3 years ago, right? And because if it's not being looked after, of course, the scars are there and you can still see them. And these people don't know. And they walk around as though nothing happened. And so those people they're not proactive because they don't know. They figure they're healthy.
Sit down.
The beauty about this is prevention is easy to achieve just by following some simple rules. Let's talk about some of the features now or illnesses that you might have. Myocardial infraction is a heart attack, as you know. I just mentioned that. And it's caused by blockages in blood flow in the heart, resulting in part or the whole heart muscle dying. Okay, so you have a dead part in your body. And now you have to figure out how to recover that. And this could be not only devastating, but could be fatal. And you know, a lot of people die of heart attacks anyway. Ischemic attack. Ischemic attack could be transient or permanent. And this is the issue with transient or TIA. A lot of people sometimes don't know, or maybe they kind of figure out that they might know, or maybe they have it. And sometimes they go to the doctor and the doctor says you had a TIA, but they recover fully. So what happens? A lot of them don't do any proactive measures, right, to prevent a major heart attack later on. Okay, because they figure, hey, I'm good. It's okay. The permanent one now, right, is a major stroke. And it can cause a sudden change in life or fatal. It could kill you. So even those are kind of bad for you. Hemorrhagic stroke. This is when a blood vessel bursts in your head, causing blood to spew into the surrounding brain. I should have that. Okay, here we go. I am performing now a 9 matrix.
It's emergency treatment.
Oh, yes. This is like a stroke. Okay, so this can be a major stroke and actually change your life completely. All right, so you don't want the blood vessel to break, and usually it's caused by high blood pressure. And we can show you how to reduce your blood pressure and keep it normal, by the way. Nobody actually have to have high blood pressure. You can actually bring it back to normal fairly quickly. Okay, high blood pressure itself now, which I'm going to be talking about. We call it sometimes hypertension. But now I'm going to talk about systemic hypertension. Okay? And this condition can be caused by obstructive sleep apnea, kidney disease, adrenal gland imbalances, thyroid problems, okay, congenital blood vessel deformation, certain medications like birth control pills, what do you call it, cold remedies, decongestants, over-the-counter pain relievers. You know, aspirin and so is bad for you. Dr. Smith mentioned that. Anyway, and some prescription drugs. Illegal drugs too would do that. Some cocaine and amphetamines would do that to you. Of course, stress would do that to you too. All right, and so we'll talk about stress. These factors like illicit drugs and different things that we do, we can all control it, we can see it, but sometimes stress, we don't know how to control, and we can show you a way you can do that quite easily, okay? Pulmonary hypertension. This is more regional now. We'll be talking about the lungs now. It is really resistance in the pulmonary arteries, the lung arteries, right? That would increase the blood pressure. And it actually, if it's blocked, and sometimes it's blocked fairly quickly, right? It could cause the blood pressure to rise very quickly. And because the ventricles are pumping the blood, you know, the heart would actually use the muscle so much that the heart is unable to pump any more blood, and then you'll have a heart failure. Okay? So pulmonary hypertension is pretty dangerous too. Arteriosclerosis. Dr. Smith talked about clogged artery and what can be done. So be careful of that. There's easy way to do that, and you don't have to have clogged artery. Nobody has to get clogged artery. It's so easy to control. All right? One of the things is, and this is where most people don't know that they have a cardiovascular issue. What it is smooth blood flow. You have to have smooth blood flow. Okay? Rhythmic smooth blood flow is essential for cardiovascular health. Arrhythmias, fibrillation, cause turbulence in the blood flow. And this causes blockages and blood clots. How does it do it? Out of the phase heartbeat, especially between the atria and ventricles, can prevent the chambers from not emptying fully. And the remaining blood can clot. That's one way of getting blood clot. There's several ways, okay? So a piece of this clot can work its way up to the brain and cause a stroke. It's as simple as that, okay? It's just because one beat is off, okay, can cause a blood clot and give you a stroke. Turbulence in the blood flow can cause a buildup of stuff in the interior arterial walls, okay, and slow or stop the blood flow. Atrial fibrillation now. Atrial fibrillation is fairly popular. The reason why? Because it's one of the most common arrhythmia. It is an irregular heartbeat in the atrium, which is the top half of your heart, and it interrupts blood flow, and it can lead to thrombosis and stroke. It's really a quiver. Okay, I'm sure most of you felt that little quiver sometimes from time to time. Okay, that could be atrial fibrillation. And we'll talk about a very simple way of controlling that, because that's the start of having a heart attack or stroke. Okay. Now this is a more serious one. Almost everyone gets atrial fib, but not too many people get ventricular fib. Okay, it's still, problem with the rhythm of the heart. Rhythm of the heart. So it beats rapid and so forth, just like, quivering. This results in the pumping chamber in your heart, which is the ventricles, to quiver uselessly instead of pumping blood. And it's sometimes triggered by a heart attack. Okay. Ventricular fibrillation causes your blood pressure to plummet and cuts off blood supply to vital organs. So now it becomes very serious. So you can suddenly do that. All right, and guess what happens? Most time it's fatal. Ventricular fibrillation, I'm repeating this word because it's so important that you understand it. It's an emergency and requires immediate medical attention. Okay, and don't kid yourself. You can't just get out of it like that. Once it hits you, you're basically done. All right, so you have to have immediate medical attention, and this causes a person to collapse within seconds. within seconds. Is the most frequently caused sudden cardiac death. Okay, so it's number one, sudden cardiac death. Of course, we have our own CPR, but yes, you have to use CPR and AED, automated external defibrillator, okay, to get started. And we have our own defibrillator. In fact, we teach people, I have what you call a survival course, where you can do these things in the bush, like if you're out in the bush, whatever you're doing out in the bush that excites you to be there. You might be like miles away and hours away from populous area. And there's no way, if you have a heart attack out there, there's no way to, you might be able to do CPR, which we can show you, but there's no way to get a defibrillator to fire your heart, fire up back your heart. Okay, we have a way in which to do it using your chi, using your own energy. It actually circulates the energy back into your heart, and we fire it up just like AED or a defibrillator. So maybe next week we'll talk about that. The vagus nerve, which is an important part of this whole topic that we're talking about. And this controls the autonomic central nervous system. Just imagine 90% of the brain power, output power of the brain is designated to this function. Okay, that's how powerful it is. And this is the reason why when people have a heart attack, or a mild heart attack, or a silent attack that they don't know about, they're suddenly just drained of energy. They can't even lift their arms or anything. Because there's so much output power. And if that's disturbed, you really don't have any life in your body, basically. So this carries signals from your brain to the vital organs. For instance, your heart. Chest discomfort now.
Well, a little emergency, Stanley.
Yes.
A little trick if you're out in the boondocks, if you take a homeopathic remedy called Carbo-Veg with you, and if you're having a heart attack, you put it under your tongue. It'll pull you out of a heart attack very, very quickly. So that's kind of a neat thing that you can carry with you wherever you go.
Well, shall I say what we do?
What?
Okay, quickly. I'll say what we do.
The more you say it, the more you hear it.
Well, I was going to talk about that next week, but that's okay. We all you have to do is press hard, okay? P6, and next week we'll show you how to find it. P6 would get you kind of going, but if your heart isn't going, we actually hit a special point which is very close to H3. Okay, and I'll show you which one to do first, and which one to do second. Okay, next week I'll probably do that. And that would fire heart up back again. What you actually do feel is like 1,000 volts actually just hits you suddenly. Okay, but that's your own energy that actually we kind of harness and bring it to your heart and fire it. Okay, so if you go barehanded and you forget to take the homeopathic tincture,
yeah,
then this is the only way out, basically, because it's all natural, and you can survive this way. Okay, this what happens here in a chest discomfort. Oh, did I say what it is? From the ancient Qigong teachings, there's an empirical theory that states all illnesses in the body is derived from the brain. Okay, all illnesses is derived from the brain. All right. We try to do that before it gets out of hand. So if you train your brain properly before it gets out of hand, then you can stay healthy. So what happens? We have from the brain, you might have chaotic, hypertensive, negative information. Okay, that would descend through the vagus nerve and enters the heart, and this could cause chest discomfort. Okay, it also can lead to angina attack, and if it's permanent, it can lead to heart attack. Okay, so it's everything goes hand in hand, and everything is simple and obvious. We can just look at some herbs for prevention, not herbs for correction yet, but herbs for prevention. UP1. Okay, you probably need to write that down for you. And if anybody needs that name, we can actually text it to you or something. In Chinese or TCM, it has to do more with blood and spleen. It has to do with tranquility, okay, concentration. So when you're studying and so forth, and you need more mental clarity, you can get it. Stress reduction and sleep. That's what it's really noted for. Bu Na Wang is really for cognition. Okay, it sedates and calms the spirit. It has everything to do with psychiatry too, cognitive behavior, clarity also, trauma, like PTSD too, that's sort of trauma, dementia, disorientation, anxiety, insomnia. So both of them, once you're relaxed, right, you can actually control your sleep better. Emotional outbursts, phlegm, very important too. It addresses your heart, kidney, brain. Energetics, it has to do with restlessness and stagnation. Stagnation of chi, which we call energy or frequency, and blood itself. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the word that I coined. We call it the black box. So let's look at the black box theory. What it entails is the paleo-mammalian complex, which is the emotional brain, or we can call it the limbic system. The reptilian complex now has to do with survival. Okay, that's what makes your heart beat. That's what makes your digestion work, and your breathing and everything, all the vitals. And that's the basal ganglia. Okay, the new mammalian complex is the smarts, and it doesn't really come into play directly at this point in time. So we can forget that. What we care about now is the black box. Okay, that's the survival. So basically, because of the limbic system, it records memory, and so it has to do with behavior, right? And these behavior can be agreeable or disagreeable experiences. So it is now called the emotional part of your being. Okay, so this gives you character and everything. Anything has to do with life and just your basic presence itself. Most of us actually live in a state of fight, flight, and freeze. Okay, we like to add that extra freeze because some people just freeze. This causes a state of emergency. So you live in a state of emergency, chaos, and irregularity in the descending information to your body. Okay, that causes irregular heartbeat. And I can say that because I've done it many times over. Okay, you want to correct your heartbeat, you control your paleo mammalian brain. Okay, which is connected to your reptilian complex. Okay, it has to do with the medulla oblongata. And so from there, it comes down, that information comes down through the vagus nerve to your heart. And it can control your heartbeat. It can set your heartbeat into rhythm without having a defibrillator. Okay? So we have gotten people, do you know that the best Western doctor can actually get you, if everything is absolutely right, could return your atrial fib to 80% maximum? A lot of times they hover between 50 to 80%. Okay? We can get your atrial fib 100% gone. Okay? It sounds incredible because it's incredible. And the reason why I can say that is because we go after the splinter. Okay? Don't try to ablate your the nerve that actually give you defibrillation. Don't try to do that because you're not really going after the source.
It's insanity.
Yeah. Okay. So they're gonna burn your nerves and sever it because it's causing your heart to go to quiver like that. That's ancient. That's been what do you call it? Reckless, basically. Okay. The other thing is they give you drugs, and we all know what they do. Okay. And the other thing that they could do is give you an internal pacemaker. So they cut you open, put a little gadget in you, connect it to your heart, and let it fire your heart at a constant rate. Okay. We can do that within one or a couple of treatments. We can bring your heartbeat rate back to normal. Okay. And it's that simple. Okay. They made a career out of it.
Yeah.
It's not our career because it's so simple to us. We can do it with our eyes closed.
So Stanley, you're going to talk about next week Heart 9 as what I was told that it's one of the acupuncture points that can abort a heart attack.
We have lots of them. This one, yeah. One of the best things to do for heart attack is not really the heart, The best one to use is the pericardium.
Okay.
Right? The pericardium is actually better to use. I want to say, well, it's better on what it is, right? It's only a comparison of two. It's either the heart channel itself or the pericardium channel. But the pericardium channel have a faster way of returning your heart to normalcy.
Okay.
Anyway, understanding the mechanism now. Let's try to understand the mechanism why a heart attack could cause arrhythmia. Okay, so if you have a heart attack, it could give you arrhythmia. And you can have a silent heart attack and want to know why you have arrhythmia. How can it happen suddenly? And eventually, it might turn into atrial fib. Okay, and now it start becoming dangerous as it become into atrial fib. Arrhythmia and atrial fibrillation can cause coronary heart blockages. Okay, remember I talked about you know, when you have heartbeat that is chaotic, it could cause clotting, and not only that, but different things can cause coronary heart blockage. But this is one of them, and this is fairly common too, and that's the reason why I mention it. Listen to this. Atrial fibrillation is activated by the primitive brain. Okay, so why not use the primitive brain, right? To redo it, to get rid of it. If the primitive brain brings it on, use the primitive brain to take it back off. And that's the secret. And it's no secret at all. Because even everybody knows that. Okay, that information is coming from the brain, right? Through the vagus nerve to the heart. Now, rather than slicing it down below, sever the nerve down by the heart. Okay, you can't slice this up there, it'll kill you, because it has to do with many other organs, all the other vital organs. So they just look for that one that actually causes the fibrillation directly, okay, and they'll snip it. But let's control it from the brain, and that's what we're going to do. High blood pressure, of course, can cause blockages too. And it can also cause, well, stress can cause high blood pressure. Okay.
So basically you're saying to the people, stay away from the 4 main food groups: Burger King, McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Wendy's.
Yeah. You know, if you eat them once every 5 years, you're okay.
Right.
But don't try and eat it every day. You know, the problem in today's society, they look at the commercial and they see somebody's eating at McDonald's, okay? So they think now that these guys are eating every day, so it's okay for them to eat every day. If I go to, like, you know, I don't live like a hermit, okay? Although I'm a grandmaster, I don't live like a hermit neither. If I have a group of friends and they decide to go to McDonald's, I'll go with them and I'll eat. But that would be once every 5 years. Okay? But these guys are doing it every week. I don't do it if they're going every week, I refuse to go with them. But if I go with them once every 5 years, I'll go and eat anything that they'll eat. And to me, that's a life to live and to be a part of society itself.
So great. So basically, just as a quick review, we're basically telling our audience, eat healthy foods, organic whenever possible, more raw whenever possible, control your blood sugar. Cinnamon is a great herb to control your blood sugar.
Yes.
You know, you need some
pressure too.
Yeah. And the Cordyceps is a great herb to take to help modulate high blood pressure, low blood pressure.
That's right.
Yeah, and increase the energy, the oxygenation of your blood. So these are all simple things that you can do on a daily basis. I don't leave to go to the office without taking a heaping teaspoonful in my mouth of the powder of the Cordyceps. It'll change your life because it's one, I call it Sunoco racing fuel, that does so many different things. It's and my good friend, I'm going to give you this feedback. She's a medical doctor. I turned her on to your product, and she says most of the Cordyceps is synthetic. She says it's garbage. She said, I tasted your friend's Cordyceps, Dr. Stanley's Cordyceps, and she said, it's the real deal. She said, you can see the difference, feel the difference.
Well, you know, the Cordyceps originally I'm talking about maybe years and years ago. I can't remember now. Um, I used to buy two pills for $200. Is $100 a piece for a pill, one cordyceps pill. But you know me, I would only go for the best, right? Because you can't. I mean, you have to start with the best if you want to be the best. I'm not saying I'm the best, okay? I can consider Dr. Smith here to be better than me, so I'm not the best.
Right.
But you know, you have to start with the best equipment in order to be as best as you can. All right. Another thing that we should mention too is physical inactivity, a couch potato, right? You know, we all, you know, I go before the COVID, I would go drive in the parking lot in a mall, and everyone is fighting for the parking spot in front of the door. All right. I drive my car to the end and have some physical activity walking towards that door.
But tell them the truth, Stanley. That's because you don't want your car to get dinged.
That's right. I was going to mention that too. Okay. Because those people are parked in front the door,
Right.
they don't care about anything. They're so frustrated.
Right.
They're so anxious. They have to rush home to do their things, and the boss give them a hard time at work. And they, you know, those are the kind of people you deal with. If you try to fight for a parking spot in front of the door, I don't want to be there.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyway, so that's one. Um, the other thing is we are so fortunate, you know, between you, Dr. Smith, and myself, and many other people in this, you know, in the creative medicine field. Okay, we find that these issues are actually easy, right, to work on and to get results. All this fibrillation, or what you want to call it, the quivering and so forth, and heart attacks and blockages and so can be easily looked at and you know, and be able to fix, right? Fortunately, again, by us, okay, these things, especially by us, okay, these things are so easy to fix.
Yeah. Well, next week we're going to give them the nuts and bolts on how to fix the damage, and it's like anything else. You have to be consistent to get results over a long period of time. It's not like an instant fix. So
yeah. And the other thing is, it's you know, you mentioned about taking cordyceps in the morning. Do you know, if I do not take cordyceps, I cannot forget cordyceps. Like, it's like brushing your teeth. It becomes such a habit that if I don't take it, which I've never done, and I cannot do it, it's like being naked, if you want to say so.
Now I got to ask you a personal question. Do you brush your teeth after you take the cordyceps or before?
I actually brush it before.
Okay. I take the powder, so I don't care. I love the taste of it.
No, I as soon as I get up, right, I do toiletry, and then I do everything else after.
Yeah. So great. As Jared, do we have any questions from the audience, or what about K1 to restart the heart?
That could be done, but it's not direct. We do that if someone passes out and not from really a heart attack or something like that. If they actually, like I've done that lots of times, okay? As you know, I teach martial arts too. And I can remember this one time, one of the instructors hit one of the students and knocked him out completely. The guy fell on the floor, and I did K1. I just punched him in K1, and he gets up and start crying. Okay, but you know how it works with all these chi work that you do on people. Like if you hit the person in K1, for instance, try to wake them back up, they don't feel at that time, at the moment of impact, they're still out. So they actually don't feel anything. And about half of a second later, they actually would jump out of it. Okay. And so they don't feel your hit. They don't know what you did to them. And that's the beauty about it. You don't have to worry that if you have an issue with that same person, the person can't say that you abused them. Okay. So yeah, so that's how it works. So you can actually hit them hard and don't worry about the consequences.
Is wheat and gluten an inflammatory food? Absolutely. To avoid, arthritis, absolutely. Wheat, gluten, and plus the wheat is primarily genetically modified, so it's pure poison. When you go to Europe, you don't find that problem. I deal with an Italian bakery that has flour from Italy, so I don't get that bloated feeling or swollen joints and that kind of nonsense. But yeah, it's a poison food for most people. Let me see. I'm interested in. Oh, my cat's in the way here. What's it? The WHO of Natural Medicine. How can I find more? Register. Well, we gave you the link for the third and fourth presentation. If you go on the WOMP's website, WONM.org, I believe, right, Stanley? Is it?
She can just type in WONM only, and it'll take it. Yeah, org is what it is, but you don't have to type in org.
Yeah, there should be information on the website regarding the program. I'm really excited about it. I worked hard to put a nice presentation with slides and case studies and really powerful information. And the more you give out, the more it comes back. That's my philosophy. But the more people that can understand natural healing, then the faster it's going to take a foothold. What was the homeopathic to put under your tongue for a heart attack? Carbo, C-A-R-B-O, veg, V-E-G, 30 potency, 30C potency. And even if they're unconscious, it'll work. You just shove it under their tongue. And any other questions? So we did a great job, Stanley. We answered most of the questions. And next week's going to be even more exciting because the information we're going to be sharing with you next week is not 11 o'clock news information. It's not what you're going to hear from your medical doctor or hospital or whatever. This stuff is street smart information, so to speak. It's trial and error, and that's what it's all about. So anyway, if there's no more questions, Stanley, thank you again. And next week, same time, same station. And if you have any questions, just send it to us and we'll cover it next time. Stay well.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, absolutely. I still can't understand how Easter bunnies lay Easter eggs. I can't figure that one out yet.